the up to how many propane tanks?
Correct.
Okay.
One thing that we did, we took some of the recommendations that were made 2 weeks ago to some of the code sections. Those have been made. I don't know if you want to go over those now or if you just want a revised packet. I would like to come to council with this either next week or the first meeting in June at the latest to get our local revisions and the 2012 final adoptions approved by council. So,
Would you
whichever way
like to
prefer
give
go.
highlights of the carryover from last time? There was a few items outstanding and you were gonna work on them, I believe.
Correct, which I have those, you know, I have to apologize, I didn't print copies for you. We can either go over them now or just run over them at the next committee meeting, or I can just put them in the packet for council's approval, whatever you prefer.
I'm gonna say, let's, would they be in highlights? Highlighted like the 3 or 4 things before council, and then we can review them? That's
Yes.
what I'm gonna suggest, unless I hear objections. Okay, let's do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Items to be considered at future meetings. Item A is technical difficulties. One moment. Can I use your packet? Thank you. Item A is the Wooddale Station property and determining if they're going to bring forward revisions there or what the next steps would be. Are there any other items for future meetings? I make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Our Public Health and Safety and Judicial Committee, call to order. Roll call is the same except for Roy is missing. Approval of minutes of the meeting of April 26, 2012. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Number 4, report and recommendation on video poker. We have to put it aside because we made a ban in 2009 to not have video poker in the city of Wooddale. So we have to bring this up to committee to find out if we're going to revise it. So it can't be done, we can't vote on video poker tonight. Is there anything that you want to say, Chief?
No, just the fact that when this was passed in 2009 by the state, there was no real guidelines in effect at that time. City Council did look at it, and since last Friday when we received the memo from the city attorney, we were able to verify that in 2009 there was an ordinance passed by the City Council that banned video gaming in the city of Wooddale. So where we're at this point is if the council wishes to allow video gaming, they would have to repeal the ordinance, per the city attorney's advice, that banned the video gaming, and then they would have to amend the current code that prohibits gambling at all throughout the city. So that's where I'll leave it at that discussion. That's where we stand. Right now, it is currently banned in the city of Wooddale.
All right, has anybody got any questions?
Joe,
Yes.
I believe these people would like to speak about it. I mean,
Oh,
if
yes.
you allow them to,
I'll
I-
allow it. You have to go up to the podium. One of you, anyway.
I mean, I believe Mike is here to speak. Okay.
Evening. Mark Richter, I'm the commander of the American Legion Post in Wooddale, Post 1205. Just wanted to give you guys some comments, I think, on the video gaming poker that's coming in. I think originally in 2009, when the board was voting on it, there were a lot of loopholes, I think, in the process. I think the regulations were kind of unclear. They were really in a creation mode. I think actually the state of Illinois got ahead of itself, and obviously the state of Illinois agrees with me because There was really no video gaming that occurred out of that 2009, 2010, and 11. And now we're into a situation where I think they've revised the rules. They've gone through the process. It's gotten a lot tighter. The regulations have gotten a lot tighter. The way we look at it at this point is also since 2009 came about, you now have a Rivers Casino, which is 10 miles outside of Wooddale or so, straight down the road besides the rest of the land-based casinos that have come up. Wooddale allows gambling basically when you think about it with the lottery tickets and the scratch tickets as it stands anyway. The regulations provide for any towns to opt out of it. Any towns have the ability to opt out of it. What the regulations do state though is if you opt out of it, you lose the ability to get any revenue from that video gambling. So if you create policies that opt you out of it, then you don't get any of that revenue. Obviously, it stands to be a large amount of revenue that the city of Wooddale opts out of, and it's not just the revenue from the gambling within the city limits, it's as a whole. The towns that allow for the gambling get a percentage of that revenue back. So it's not just what would be generated within Wooddale, it's all of the gambling across the state of Illinois that you would basically opt yourself out of. What they're talking about is kind of a low-level entertainment video gambling. There's minimums on the payouts. It's very well regulated at this point. There's contracts that got to be put in place between the establishments and vendors, and it's regulated down to the people that make the games. What's required, it's basically almost a single contract between, it's the same contract for any vendors, any establishments. There's really not a lot of legal leeway in anything. It's very well regulated. And that basically allows it to be consistent and across the board policy that there's really no loopholes through. Everybody's got to get licensed for it. Everybody's got to get, and that's really why it's important for us in the city of Wooddale and I think from the American Legion Post, we have to submit in for our licensing, we have to submit in for our policies as soon as possible so that we can get through that process ourselves. You got to get regulated, you got to get checked out. There's some things that you got to go through. So we're trying to get this either repealed or whatever you guys need to do so that you're not opting out of it, so that we can get our licensing put into place so that we're ready for it. Basically, without it, you're really putting the membership of our organizations and really any of the businesses in Wooddale at an unfair disadvantage because Bensenville's opt into it. So for those of you who don't know, our property borders Bensenville, so we're literally a foot away from where they're going to allow gambling. So I think that's going to give us an unfair disadvantage. You know, if people want to go down to gambling, they can go to the next bar down the street from us and we're out of it. So I think there may be concerns, and I don't know what they are to address them, but I think it's an opportunity for Wooddale to really get some revenue, get some good tax revenue. I think there's a lot more control that was in from 2009 when you made your original decision. Honestly, in 2009, when we read the rules, our post itself opted out. We didn't want to mess with it because the regulations were too loose at that time too. So we've since gone through the regulations, we've evaluated them. We'd really like to participate in it, and I think honestly it may be the thing that keeps us alive in business. You know, we're a not-for-profit organization, a veterans organization, and it's gotten tough. The economy's hit us hard as well, so we're looking for any sources of revenue that can keep us alive, and we're hoping that this would be one of them, but again, it would take the cooperation of the city of Wooddale to do that. So that's pretty much my argument, so if anybody's got any questions. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Art?
Yeah, my question is maybe it's for the city manager. If you could put together an informational packet and maybe talk with the city attorney to review some of the potential legal issues, because I'm sure those will be questions coming from the city council, and maybe we could have that put together for the next committee meeting.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Any other questions? Mayor?
Besides the legal issues, Jeff, if any of the aldermen have questions for the specific questions that you want to know, let's get those questions to Jeff so the attorney can answer them. Probably add it to the packet.
You know, actually, what I'll do tomorrow is I'll put a questionnaire in the packet, and you guys can return the questionnaire. I'm sure you all have some questions. We can sit down, myself, the chief, city attorney. We could try to answer those questions by the next committee meeting. So if you can, you know, submit those questions, and we'll be better informed.
I'd like to say something too. I read this article that you gave us, and the way it seems like it's almost set up like if you went for a liquor license, you had to get bonded, you had to get approved by the police department, you kind of have a criminal record and anything like that in order to get one of these machines. And they have tightened it up a lot, because years ago, they used to sell them to anybody. And we have two companies in Wooddale that distribute the machines. So let's see if we can get on. I know there's going to be some arguments, but we all have broad shoulders, so we all have to take it. Anybody else? Got any questions? Christina, all right.
Thank you. So a question and maybe a motion, because I was prepared to make the motion tonight in favor and see where we all stand on this before we go further, and then to take same formality as we do in many motions, that it would be reviewed again by the city attorney, just like we do in many cases. And this, it was researched by the city attorney's office, so I'm questioning what else needs to be included here. Mr. Murmas, do you feel that there's outstanding issues that the attorney's office didn't look at originally?
Yes, go ahead.
I do. I think there's still some questions out
Okay.
there. I know in speaking with some of the elected officials before the meeting, there were some questions that we did not have the answers to. So there are still some questions out there that I'd feel more comfortable answering after we conferred with legal counsel, discussed it some more.
Okay, thank you.
Eugene?
So I would entertain a motion to table this item until we get some other opinion
All right.
that we could submit our next committee for we could ask, because there is some questions. I have concerns too. I'd like to get some legal opinion and see what ruling we could go on that, but I'm not,
Mr. Malone wants to talk.
Just like to mention some of the timelines that are involved with this and the process, from what I understand, of the people who are already able to apply right now. It's a lengthy application process and very detailed, and background checks take a long time, and they've taken probably almost a year and a half just to get the vendors approved. And that process is done, and now they're just starting to go to the people that would be establishments and accepting their applications. And they're going to put those in a big stack, and they're only going to be able to process so many of those per month. So the quicker you guys, I don't want to rush anybody, because I appreciate you just reconsidering this, but the quicker you can look at this and review it, the better off you're going to be. Supposedly, they say October for having the machines start to go online, although Carol Pankow told me the other day that it probably would be more like January before you saw video poker in any place. But that timeline is going to come up pretty quick, and there's going to be statewide, there's going to be so many applications that you need to, if we're going to go ahead with it, review it as quickly as you can, so that people like the American Legion and VFW and myself and some others that might want it are able to apply and have that process happen as quickly as it can. So I'd just like to mention the timeline, so.
Yes, thank you. Mike?
If I could just add to that real quick, I don't even think you can vote even.
You gotta go up there.
The problem is, I think, again, as he's saying, we can't even put in our applications. So, because once the town is opted out, which you guys already have, without that being repealed, we can't put in the applications at all. It's just gonna sit there, and not only are we behind it, we can't get our applications in, so we're not even sitting waiting in the queue. So, it's, again, as urgently as possible, because the applications can start going in now, so.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else got any questions? All right. Items to be considered. I got a motion, all right.
Eugene's motion.
Motion to table it? To next committee. Second, all in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed? Okay. Items for items for consideration for future meeting? Is there anybody got anything? Okay. I'll make the motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We're done.